With the development of technology, children are now living in a world that is completely different from what it was 50 years ago. What problems does this cause for the family and society? So,
sorry, Mr. Yan. So this week, no Tuesday, no Tuesdays.
That's right. Next 2 weeks, there's no Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Okay, so step one, analyze the prompt. So we have to be crystal clear exactly about what we need to talk about. This seems like a simple thing, but it's not. Even with experienced writers, really, really good writers, they often look at the prompt, they instantly assume they understand what it's all about, and they just start writing. And then by the time they get to the end, it often turns out that they've gone off topic. Right? And then you get a garbage mark for a really silly reason. So we have to analyze the prompt just to be crystal clear about exactly what we need to talk about. So Zubi, with this question, what do we have to talk about? Remember, every template that I'm going to give you in this course is for 4 paragraphs, 2 body paragraphs plus an intro and a conclusion. Zubi, what will our 2 body paragraphs be about with this prompt?
We have to talk about the development of technology. What does it mean? And then the problems arising from the use of development technology.
Development of technology, what does it mean?
Like use of mobile or internet or many things like it was not there before. So now it's like telephone, now it's a part of everyone's lives. So why these things are causing problem for the kids?
Okay. One thing right away that might cause problems is discuss the issue in general first, before going into detail about a specific technology like mobile phones. Don't just start talking about mobile phones, because the question is not about mobile phones or computers specifically.
Yeah, we have to talk about the development of technology first. What does it mean?
Yeah, and I would give a few examples, but just to encompass the range of technologies that we're talking about. It could be phones, computers, the internet, GPS, driverless cars, space travel. Now, we have to pick examples that actually relate to children. All right, so I gave the example just a few moments ago of driverless cars. That's not relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 paragraphs. It's asking you, what problems does this cause for the family and society? That tells you how to structure this essay. Okay, so what are 2 body paragraphs going to be about?
Impact of technology on family and society used by the kids?
1 for each.
Yeah. We have to write about family first and then society, or society first and family?
I like to keep things simple, and if that's the order in the prompt, that's the order I'll keep. Okay. So without even knowing necessarily what you're going to say, you can start putting together the template and the skeletons. So what needs to go in our introductory paragraph, Amar? Hi there, Amar.
Hi.
Do do you remember what are the two parts of the introductory paragraph?
I would say to talk in general about technology.
Well, there's a formula. So one thing to keep in mind is that all of your development marks are in the body paragraphs. You need to make your intro and your conclusion as short as possible because there's no content development marks in the intro or the conclusion. So the formula for the introduction, and we use a formula in order to speed up the process of writing the introduction. So the first sentence in the intro is the context. And this is not just for IELTS, this is for anything you ever write. And to get the context, just paraphrase the first part of the prompt. Okay. Then you need your thesis. This is your super quick answer to the question. Okay. Conclusion is just your thesis again. Let's just say summary of supporting reasons. One sentence is fine. In this case, it might be two sentences because it's problems for the family and society. Okay, so our body paragraph 1 is going to be problems for family. Body paragraph 2 is going to be problems for society. What kind of problems? Let's talk about family first. What kind of problems can this cause for society, the development of technology? How has this made our society different from what it was 50 years ago?
Social interaction is less.
Okay. Can you state that in the form of a sentence?
People used to gather there was family time before, but by the use of technology, everyone is using their laptops and mobiles, so they are some kind of isolated nowadays. They have their own world in the form of mobile and computers.
Okay. So this is Tree's paragraph structure, and we're just going to try and start writing some parts of it.
Problem for family, so?
Yep. So tell me what your topic sentence is going to be. Just what you said before.
Yeah. I'm just organizing that. We can start from the development of technology to the development of technology.
Sure. Let's see what happens.
The development of technology
causes problems for the society, for the family.
Yes, causes problem for the family.
Because
Because,
There is no time.
yep, go ahead.
Yeah, time for social life is decreased.
The time available for socializing has decreased. Okay. And so what you're going to talk about is the amount of time people spend using media.
yes.
Okay. So what is our evidence going to be? What kind of research study could support this idea?
Screen time.
Yeah. Okay. This is a formula for your evidence. According to research conducted by whom and when, what are we going to say about screen time?
Screen time is increased.
The amount of time that children spend in front of a screen has increased dramatically compared to 50 years ago. When TV or when television was a new phenomenon. Was it new in the 1970s? Was a relatively new phenomenon. Okay, how much time?
People like 50 years ago, people used to have only one TV, and the TV also has some timings. So now they have unlimited access of time, unlimited access to the screen.
Right, but this is a research study, so it has to be specific. So just make up the numbers. These days,
Yeah.
the average child spends
5 to 6 hours.
let's say 6 hours in front of a screen every day. Okay. So that's the kind of evidence that's going to support your point. Now, who are you going to use as an example?
My kids.
Sure. For example, yeah, you want to say bad things about your kids? No problem. Or you can say bad things about your cousin's kids, right? Your
That's
foolish
right.
cousin. Okay, now remember that you will have to connect this example to problematic behavior or some kind of problematic issue that it causes, right? So it won't be enough just to say that, for example, as soon as my kids come home from school, they watch cartoons and play video games as well. They're using screens at school as well. You can say something like that, but let's just stick to home time. Example, as soon as my kids get home, they watch TV, then they play video games and whatever.
Even
So what?
During when they are doing dinners and they are the family gathering, they want to stay with their mobile or internet. This is causing the problem because they don't have time for family. They love to play. Problem because if your parents or grandparents visited you, they are not there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have time for family or grandparents. Even with friends, I have seen this. Kids are very busy.
Yeah, you're totally right. The other day, we try not to let our kids watch too much TV, but the other day they were on the TV during their screen time, during their daily screen time, because their schoolwork was done. And then a neighbor just knocked on the door, and she had her son with him. He was my son's classmate. They haven't seen each other since March or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the other mom is like, "Do you want to come outside and just say hi to your friend? He hasn't seen you in so many months. He misses you." My son is like, No, I don't want to see him. I'm busy watching something.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe it. You've been complaining about not having friends, and now someone shows up and you don't even care, right? So
Because
that's
there's too many interested things on TV.
yeah. And you know what? It's hard to argue with that. The
Yeah.
TV and video games are genuinely more interesting than anything that I can ever say or show my kids.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry. Talking to me is not as exciting as killing monsters on a screen. Right? Another example you could mention is that even when you go to a restaurant, like last time we were at a restaurant was Chinese food, probably around Chinese New Year at the beginning of the year, and we walk in, and there's like one of those huge round tables with like a huge extended family around the table, and I kid you not, out of 8 people sitting at that table, every single one of them was on a phone.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, very right. Yeah.
Right, the kids too. They're hiding their phones under the table. They're not making eye contact with anyone.
Yeah.
So okay, so that would be a good example. Now we need one for society.
Society.
Mohammed, Amar, Dina, how could this be problematic for society?
I'll talk about cyber security.
But remember, this is children.
Mm.
See, children are now living in a world that's completely different. What problems does this cause? The fact that children are living in a world that's completely different. Right, so if you talk about that, you're going to be off topic and it'll be a band 5 for task achievement. This is what I mean when I say analyze the prompt. Read the prompt several times, and then anything that you write in your outline, keep looking back at the prompt to make sure it's 100% connected, because it's so easy to go off topic. And even if you write beautifully about cybersecurity, if it's off topic, you still get a low score.
Mr. Yan, if you got like, for example, you wrote very good in grammar, vocab, but as you said, it's off topic. So task achievement will go down to 5. What about the others? How they will assess the other criteria? They will give, like, for a grammar, normally if it is good, they can give 6 or 7, unrelated to the subject. Okay, so here you mean that you want the problem for children to the society. So if we want to say that those children, they will become, they will have less social skills and communication, it will affect their future engagement in the society, like in workplace and academic performance.
Yeah, I mean, if you did that, that would be very nice because it logically follows from the first paragraph. I mean, you can have 2 completely different consequences, but I like your idea.
Mm. And this question only problems? There is no solution, or it's just like
This one happens to just be problems.
oh,
So I have an
Mm-hmm.
I was going through the news sometimes, like the kids, what they do when they watch TV and they watch violence, and at the end of the day, what they do, they will like find some weapon from fathers or mothers cabinet or drawers, and they will fire. I was reading through that there were two kids, brother and sister, and they were playing together.
Mm-hmm.
And one was pretending to be a he-man, and he fired a gun to her sister, and she was dead. So that is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because no one is supervising the kids, what they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they are learning things because they have no sense that what they are watching and what they are doing, they have no concept of death, and they have no concept of harm, so they are doing it for the fun. So this is the problem nowadays, because kids are fighting all around the schools, and if you go to read the news, so in every 1 month or 2 months, you can hear that the teenagers or maybe the young kids, they are firing and then bullying, and because they have no concept of what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
so here, Mr. Yan, we say like we are like for her example, like we are they are seeing bad movies or like violence movies. Is this related to the prompt? Because the prompt only like watching technology.
Yeah, but you have to make that connection. So I'm just typing up here just to make sure that we don't miss this connection. You would have to say, how has the world changed? Right? Because the prompt is with the development of technology. So what does that mean? How is the world completely different from what it was 50 years ago? So how has the world changed? Screens are everywhere. Whoops. In the past, how many screens did people have at home?
Only one.
Shared by the whole family.
Oh, man.
I mean, remember, like when we were teenagers, it was such a big deal if somebody got their own TV. And
Yes.
and when I got my first TV, it was like this big. Right? And now kids have like huge flat screens in their rooms. Right? So screens are everywhere. Oh, every room in the house practically, I'm pretty sure. Laptops, tablets, mobile phones.
Individual mobile and tablets. Even two devices they are having.
Screens on watches. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
My kids got these like little junior smartwatches, and they have games on them. So even though the games are like really stupid and simplistic, they'll just play them because they make noise. They'll just go tick, tick, bing, 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 bing for hours. Right? So as a result, well, the result is in the next sentence, right? It's how much time. And I'm not using proper grammar here. When you're in the outline phase, don't worry about grammar, don't worry about spelling too much. As a result, huge increase in screen time. Okay, and here, the example, significance is going to be decreased communication with family and friends, worse socialization skills, maybe not even caring. So if I use the example, I'm just thinking out loud. if I use the example that I told you about a few minutes ago where the neighbor came by with her kid and my son was not even interested in seeing this kid, I would conclude by saying indifference to human contact even. What does indifference mean?
Like it is not like for human.
It means you don't care.
Yeah.
Right? It's not important.
Yeah.
Dictators are indifferent to human suffering.
Yeah.
Dictators are indifferent to the suffering their actions cause. Okay, so problems for society. Let's work in the same way. Okay, who wants to give me a good topic sentence, just based on what we said before? Remember the violence. So we've talked, you know, this is cool because this is similar to our last essay.
Yeah.
Right? Our first paragraph is about the time, the amount of time that kids spend in front of a screen. Right? But now our second paragraph is going to be about what they are seeing on the screen and how that affects their behavior.
Okay.
So in a sense, there is significant overlap in these different topics, that the arguments that you use for one essay, you can use for multiple topics. They're going to work perfectly well. Okay, so now let's talk about what the kids are seeing on a screen and how that affects their behavior. So the children engaging in violence is our controlling idea for this paragraph. Remember, paragraphs have one controlling idea. Okay, who wants to give me a topic sentence?
Like
Amar?
Yeah, we can say the development of technology had very severe effects on society because of using technology is, we can say, easing the violence.
Mm-hmm. But what's our controlling idea going to be for this paragraph? So our research is that kids spend on average about 6 hours a day in front of a screen. So that's led to kind of indifference. But now we're going to move on and say that what kids are viewing is quite violent, and that leads to real life violence.
Yes.
So this is language from our previous prompt. The content that children now view on screens also causes real life problems for society. Right, like this kind of violence, like shooting games, and this was not available 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, we used to watch Tom and Jerry or Heckle and Jekyll, Pink Panther. Now there's no cartoon like this.
Yeah, those were the innocent days, right?
Even my kid doesn't like. I said, okay, no, watch this Tom and Jerry. He said, no, I want to watch Spider-Man.
So instead of saying 50 years ago, I'm going to say decades ago.
Yeah.
What children see and what children play on video games is incredibly violent today. Okay, according to whom? I'm just making this up. According to the Canadian Centre for Social Research, according to a report by the Canadian Centre published in 2019, what did we discover?
Children love more violent games.
The crimes increase between children.
Well, it needs to be specific.
Shooting.
Okay. So we need to talk about a percentage or a quantity, and something that we can compare to the past.
The shooting accidents increased by 70%.
But how are you going to connect that to what children see on TV rather than other factors? Like poverty, for example, could be behind that, or an increase in gun purchases, right? Like you have to make that connection. So that's why I'm suggesting you need to invent the evidence that's going to support the point you're already trying to make, because otherwise it can lead you in the wrong direction. So here, what kind of evidence would support this point? Compared to what was on screen decades ago, what children see today is incredibly violent. What kind of evidence would prove that point?
Like 70% of the kids are more into the violent games, or they love
Sure.
to watch violent games or shooting games.
Or maybe instead of even prefer, just watch.
Yep.
On a daily basis and play violent games. Daily basis. In fact, children witness hundreds of deaths on screen per day.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? You have to make that so what connection. Okay, so seeing all this violence by itself doesn't prove our point. Now we have to connect it to real life violence.
Because sensitivity will be less.
This
Or like
makes
the incidence of juvenile crime or increase.
Yeah.
So it has resulted in an increase in juvenile crime, as well as the seriousness of juvenile crimes. Okay, now you would need some kind of example.
What does it mean, seriousness of juvenile crime? What does
Means they're more violent. What I'm thinking of is, I used to have schoolyard fights and one kid would end up with a black eye. Now you might have schoolyard fights that end up in a shooting.
Oh.
An example that I would talk about, because I had to research this topic about 10 10 or 11 years ago, and there's this brilliant book called On Killing. It's by a psychologist who used to work with the military, I believe. And what he talked about is how this kind of TV and this kind of video game playing results in complete desensitization of children to violence. He said that the way that children play video games is roughly the same way that the army trains soldiers to shoot. Right? And that children, or anyone who plays shooting games, is actually, whether they like it or not, training themselves to fire real weapons. There was an incident years ago where two 12-year-old boys in the States, they stole their grandfather's .22 caliber rifle, and they went to school. And they just lay down on a hill at a significant distance from their schoolmates and just opened fire. Okay, these are two 12-year-old boys. Out of 10 shots that they took, 80% were either a chest or a headshot. Okay, they killed almost everyone they shot with one bullet. The crazy thing is, their accuracy was higher than a typical police officer's. The even crazier thing was that was the first time they had ever fired real guns. All of their training was from video games.
Yes.
Right. That's the example that I would talk about. But you could talk about like the Columbine massacre. But again, you have to connect it back to the screen time if that's what you're talking about.
Like in the New Zealand, the guy killed the people. He was actually filming them in like a game he used to play. He was inspired by the game.
Okay. I want to add something here just to connect it to technology in general, more generally, before going into screens right away. I'm going to say the fact, okay, I'm going to choose our words carefully. The prevalence of screens, what does prevalence mean?
Presence?
It means how common stuff is. So rephrased it like this: the prevalence of screens and the content that has been developed for them, so I'm building on the previous paragraph, has had the biggest negative impact on society of any technology developed in the last 50 years. Okay. Okay, so you come up with your own example and then the significance. Okay, any questions about this one? So what is our format going to be for the thesis statement? What is our context going to be? Let's practice this. I'd like you to do a little bit of writing. I want you to write the intro paragraph as well as the conclusion thesis. Sorry, it's jumping around a bit. Okay, so here for the intro paragraph, just paraphrase the first part of the prompt. So that's this part. Just put it in your own words. There's no thinking involved in this. This is a formula. It works every time. And then your thesis, but answer it as briefly as possible. So in this kind of situation, what would be a thesis statement that would work? What's the quickest thesis you can come up with?
Development of technology brought negative impact has developed.
Let's just say cause, let's say, has led to
Negative impact to family and society.
Negative impacts on both family life. I'm just going to paraphrase family as family life and society. There's not a good synonym for society. We could say society at large. Okay. At large is a phrase that means in general.
Can we say I see this word societal norms.
You could, but we're not talking about social norms too much or societal norms. We're talking about violence. Right? Yes, if you were talking about how it has caused behavior, changes in what we consider normal behavior, then yes, you could say social norms or societal norms. Yeah, no problem. But this is very general. I'm not summarizing the reasons here. I don't need to. Okay, this is just for IELTS. This is okay. However, at the end here, you should summarize the supporting reasons very, very briefly. Okay, so we're writing, well, I just gave you this one. So you're just, I hate it when it jumps around like this. So all you're doing is paraphrasing the first part of the prompt, and you can use this or something like this as your quick and dirty thesis. And then one more thing, write a full thesis, which includes a summary of the supporting reasons. I'll give you 10 minutes. Okay. And I'll share this document with you if you need it. I'll put it in the chat.
So, Mr. Yan, do you think to be quick, this thesis, can we write it in this way, only general, without summarizing the reason?
Yep, absolutely. Here, I'll copy this too. Ugh. Okay, and I'll leave this on the screen. Let's see if I can make it a little smaller. Okay, is this too small?
Oh, my internet.
Okay. Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes. And that's doing 2-3 sentences. Okay. Okay. All right, Dana.
Yes.
Okay. What should we do here? Here, let me just blow this up a bit. There we go.
Have?
That's right.
It's because now like it's passive voice.
Yeah, the problems behind this invention are negatively
Really?
family life and social norms have been negatively impacted.
Yeah. I don't know. Only when you put line, I know. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, this one.
Sure.
It's always with the advent
With
of
the,
technology. Less engaged with. So, do you need
family.
situations? Can you just put family?
I mean, with family matters, family.
Okay, as you wish. My editor instinct tells me that you don't need this word, but if you think it makes a difference, okay. The lack of academic performance and social skills. We don't, nobody says social life skills, just social skills.
Okay.
Children who use.
No need, because the question.
See, modern technology.
Modern.
Simpler. Okay, otherwise good. Zubi, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Developing technology has
A great impact. Again, I missed the A.
Right now, they're talking about a comparison to the past, and they're talking about the impact now. If you're talking about the present situation as a result of changes that have occurred, which verb tense is most appropriate? Which verb tense is the most appropriate when you're talking about the outcomes of past developments on the present situation? What should you use?
Past indefinite?
You need present perfect.
Oh, yes.
If you're talking to a patient and they're telling you about their long-term behavior, for example, the kind of diet they have had over many years, the kind of lifestyle they have had over the last few years, then when you discuss the impact on their health, you're also going to use present perfect. So these lifestyle choices or these behaviors have had a great impact on your health. Right? Things that you did in the past that have a consequence now, we use present perfect most commonly.
Okay.
Has had a great family life. When do you use then? This is a fairly common problem with comparisons. Let's be more specific. ER. This is for comparisons. Is better than or is worse than? Right. Now, what's another comparative structure that you could use that will be correct here?
One better. Compare to decay. Compare to.
Mm-hmm. Good. Then, just one more time, you need an ER. So if you said has had a greater impact than something else, but it's not going to work in this situation because you're not comparing the impact of technology on something else.
Yes.
Okay, good. In my opinion, oh yeah, kids are more vulnerable to this situation. Okay, so the problem with this is this is your thesis, kind of. Has had a negative impact. Okay, you did this differently. It's fine, but
I'm missing something here. Because
see, the question is about the impact on children.
yeah.
Right? Children, what problems does this cause for family and society? So impact on children leads to problems for family and society.
Yes.
So that's not included in this statement.
Yeah.
That's missing. Developing technologies had a great impact on children. Okay. This has resulted in problems for society and family life. Do you see the difference? It's kind of even hard to explain why this is problematic, but if you read Dina's, I mean, this is pretty clear.
Yes. It is clear.
She's mentioning what she's going to talk about, problems on family life and also social norms. But this doesn't tell us what your body paragraphs are going to be about.
Okay.
And the word here, venerable, is like highly respected. The word you want is vulnerable.
Oh, yes.
Venerable is a really unusual word unless you're talking about a really special person who's very highly respected, like almost like a holy person.
Yes.
But again, this doesn't tell us anything about how you're going to structure your body paragraphs. It doesn't really help the reader. In my opinion, the problems, more than one, caused by
The use of.
technology. So this is fine. Have affected with the A. Effect with an E is a much more unusual word, and it's used like this. The new CEO has effected with an E many changes in the organization. What does affected here mean?
He made changes.
Yeah, has brought about
Yeah.
or caused. Brought about is the best synonym. Right, but this is with the E. This is with the A. Children. And you should put the supporting reasons in your concluding thesis. Okay, let's see. We got Mohammed here. Okay. And then we've got Amar at the bottom. Okay. There it is. All right, Mohammed, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Technologies has been developed incredibly over the last 50 years. Technologies, whoops, technologies I would just say in general, because technology can be countable or uncountable. In a general sense, we just say technology, has developed. You could use it passively, but there's no need to. So this is okay. Technology has developed incredibly over what do we need here?
The last.
Over the last, it's always over the last 50 years, over the last 30 minutes. This is a fragment. Okay, so the grammar is pretty rough here. It has okay, lots of issues over the last 50 years, which led to significant effect negatively on family and society. Do you know why this is a fragment?
Why?
Okay. Is this a sentence by itself? You know what we need to do in the next semester? We need to have like a grammar clinic on these kinds of issues, because these are really serious and they're kind of fundamental basic grammar issues that we have to resolve before you're going to get a high score. There's just no way with this kind of stuff.
When we will start, sir?
Sorry?
When we will start this grammar lesson?
Well, I think we can do it in September. Like this is our last lesson of this semester. Then we're continuing in September.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna make a quick note for myself. It might be like the first half or the second half of the class.
Okay.
That's for. So I'll let you know how we set that up. Okay.
Okay.
So this needs to be part of the previous sentence. This whole thing, anything like this that starts with which that's not a question is a relative clause. It's a dependent clause. Mohammed, when I say dependent clause, do you know what I mean? Independent, dependent clause?
No.
Okay. I'm going to give you some lesson links for this, okay? Afterwards. Which
Okay.
has led to significant effect negatively. Significant, now we need a noun phrase. Negative effects has led to significant what? Negative effects on family and society. Here you just need a comma instead of a period. Technology has developed incredibly over the last 50 years, comma, which has led to significant negative effects on family and society. It's noticeably sharing time between family members has been decreased. It's noticeable. it is noticeable that, what do you mean by sharing time?
Socializing.
Okay,
Sharing time between family members.
Socializing time. Socializing time between family members has decreased. Has been decreased as passive voice. It would imply that someone has done this, but no one has done this, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense or no?
Yes, yes.
If you use passive voice, like the dinner was cooked by my dad. The dinner was cooked by my uncle. Okay. Has decreased and plenty impacts reflected to society. It's noticeable that socializing time between family members has decreased. And then I would put another which clause, which, comma, which has also negatively impacted society. Oops. It's noticeable that socializing time between family members has decreased, which has also negatively impacted society. Can you read the correct version out loud? Mohammed?
Yes.
Can you read the correct version out loud?
Okay. Technology has developed incredibly over the last 50 years, which has led to negatively effects on family and society. It's notably that
it's noticeable.
Yeah, that socializing time between family members has decreased, which has also negatively impacted society.
Good. Okay, in conclusion, always a comma, we are living in a technology era, in a high-tech, let's put in a high-tech era. Because we always live in a technology era. Technology by itself, I mean, a horse and plow is technology, right? Paper and pencil is technology. So we're living in a high-tech era, but it has, let's do this without the contraction, but it has negatively affected family and society due to decreasing socializing and applying technology negative content in real life and society. What does this part mean?
It means technology content, what we see in on screens, we apply it on the real life. If it's violence, we will apply violence, and so on. Make it real.
Okay, we need a cleaner way to say that. I think, let's say among family Any suggestions here?
Communities?
Yeah, but how? We need to very briefly summarize the reason. This is the concluding thesis. Sometimes it gets a little bit messy, and sometimes it's easier just to use simpler sentence constructions. I think that's what's causing the problems, that we're trying to fit too much into a single sentence. In conclusion, we're living in a high-tech era, but it has negatively affected family and society. We have to connect it to children. That's what's missing here as well, right? That's what was missing. Okay, I just noticed that too. You're missing children. There's nothing about children in here, right? So that's a problem. You got to talk about the kids. So this is not going to work. You have to say increasing screen time among children has decreased socializing among family members. Moreover, or furthermore, on-screen violence has seeped into real life. I'm not too happy with that. How about this? Moreover, on-screen violence has influenced the level of real violence in society. Okay. Do you see how this one is more specific?
Yes.
Right. This is the kind of thing you want for your conclusion, not the intro, just the conclusion. It's a really quick summary of, I mean, if you use different arguments, then obviously this is going to change, but this is a super short summary of the key ideas. Now, Amar, last one. Because of
The development.
the development of technology, what do we need here?
The words
Has completely changed. Present perfect.
Okay.
Changed compared with what it was 50 years ago. Compared with what it was 50 years ago, or compared with 50 years ago. Okay. We don't have before 50 years. Don't use this construction at all.
Okay.
It's always, like if you're talking about the past, 50 years ago, we used to, da-da-da-da-da. This development has had severe with an E, negative impact on family and society in general. Okay, good. For these reasons means conclusion, right? So we don't need to say we conclude. For these reasons, the development of technology has had a has had a large, has had, oh, you've got plural. Sorry, has had large negative impacts on children.
It's very short and summarize.
Yeah,
I need
but
to talk in specific, I think, right? This is very general.
yes, and this is also not matching the prompt because we're not talking about the negative impact on children. We're talking about
The society and family.
right, negative impact on society. Oh, what? I don't know why it's behaving this way. It's funny. I can't even click anywhere without this thing jumping around. Right. What problems does this cause for family and society? But here you're talking about the effect on children's behavior. So that's off topic, right?
That's right.
And again, this is why it's so important to look at what you write and always look back at the prompt. Right, just to make sure that it's 100% related, because so many people lose marks for this precise reason, that there's a mismatch between the prompt and what you wrote. Okay, why don't we take a break for 12 minutes, grab a coffee, and then we'll continue with one more prompt, the double question prompt, and you'll have a choice of which one you want to do as your assignment. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's just take a few minutes then.